Okay, my friends, welcome today to Weekly Wise. I have lost count of how many of these we've done, but what a beautiful thing we've created. So to tell everyone about what this is, we together, so Matt, myself, and our wives, wanted to provide a platform whereby we can share true value from our hearts, the wisdom that people have gained that have blessed them in their lives. We want a stage where people, all sorts of different people, can come and share that message of light. We want more than simply nice platitudes. We want content that we can use. Some of it we can grab onto and plant into our hearts and have it bless our lives, have us gain more confidence, more direction, more wisdom. And so that's what this is. It started as we wanted to promote our business, which is the Stromberg Mentoring Network, which I will be speaking about after Matt's remarks. And so we thought, how best to do this? We came up with this idea that we can put on a stage where people can share from their hearts every week, so the message is different from week to week. There's different people with different perspectives. It is beautiful. The different avenues and perspectives that we've accumulated. So that's our goal. Also, we have a lot of leftover ice cream. It's certainly dwindling from Free Cone Day. If you didn't hear about Free Cone Day, Matt and Bonnie Parks put this on as a service to the community. They've been doing it for several years, and they anticipated a lot more people than showed up, so there were several leftovers. As it turns out, we wanted to distribute that in a way that would promote our business and share true value from our hearts. So we've combined all of those objectives into this into these Weekly Wise. So what it is, I'll introduce Matt and tell you a little bit about him. He'll give his message, which is about budgeting from expletive to friend. Be really nice. And then I will stand and I will share about the Stromberg Mentoring Network, what it means, what it would involve, and what to consider how to get involved, how to join. And finally, then Matt will come up and he will introduce the ice cream. That's his favorite flavor. It was a chocolate therapy. What is it?
Sometimes peanut butter world right now.
See, yeah, he's such a connoisseur. To select one flavor of ice cream that's his favorite would be like asking him to pick which child is his favorite, you know? So then he'll get up and he'll share his favorite ice cream and he'll tell everyone about the following week. So it's my pleasure to introduce Matt Parks. He married my sister, and he's been in the family for several years, for over 9 years now. And so he is a man dedicated to his motto is range the earth. It says a man filled with the love of God seeks to bless not only is not content to bless his own family alone, but ranges the whole earth, seeking to bless the entire human race. So Matt is dedicated to learning how he can do that, how he can create value for people and create the true life that he wants for himself. So he's a true example of someone who really internalizes these messages. So with that, we'll introduce Matt Parks.
Thank you. Thanks, Dave. Yeah, I don't know if I would go as far as to say our ice cream supply is dwindling. We still have 2 freezers full, but okay, we are, that's less than 3 freezers full, which is what we started with. So first, to those online, hello, welcome. Glad to have you. To start, I am grateful that you're here. Thanks for being willing to come and listen to me and be a part of this. Two things I guess I should say that I've loved since I was a kid. First is to play, to have fun. I've always loved to go run around, to play in the snow if it's winter, to play on my bike, to rollerblades, whatever it was. I love to have fun. I love to play. Another thing I always loved as a kid, it's gonna shock many, was ice cream. that started young. I loved ice cream, still do, and I'm still very much a little kid at heart. There were also, though, beyond that, two things when I was a child that fascinated me. One of them was money. I just thought it was interesting. I always wanted to know how it worked and how much I had and things like that, and just it fascinated me. The other one was girls, and there's that stage that kids go through, little boys like girls have cooties. That never happened to me. I always was fascinated by girls. So tonight, I'm not going to talk about girls because, I wouldn't know much what to say. But I am going to talk about money because it is something that still fascinates me. I really enjoy learning about it, and feel like I've acquired some things to share. To get started, I believe that the quality of our questions determine the quality of our lives. I think that's something worth writing down. That has impacted me, and the more I've learned to ask better questions, the more I've learned how to shape my life. More often, for me, answers come in questions. I love your shirt. Your shirt is a question. This shirt says, "Got gratitude," and it's a question mark. Those kinds of questions really provide more guidance to our lives than necessarily the answers. If we don't ask the right questions, the answers don't matter. So I want to propose a few questions. First is, it's around the purpose of money. What is the purpose of money? First, I'll say in society at large. What is the purpose of money for your family? And what is the purpose of money for you personally? I think these questions are ones that, as we gain introspection and ask, we can learn a great deal of things of how money can impact us and how we can use it effectively. So I want to talk just briefly about the purpose of money and the role of money in society. I believe it's very simply a medium of exchange that economists often will talk about. It is a medium of exchange. So in society, we use money to indicate what is valuable to us. What we give money to get something of value, right? We produce that exchange. That is what serves us in society with money, and that's really the role and the purpose of it. So let's look into that. Money, in the words of Chris Miles, I have to admit I'm a little bit taken back because he's here, and I'm going to be quoting him quite a bit, and I didn't expect him to show up, so I'm thrilled you're here. Thank you, Chris. Chris Miles has taught that money follows value. So when you think about what you spend money on, it's because there's something of value that's coming to you. You're exchanging it for that value. If we provide value to others, that is going to produce more money in exchange to us. Which then you can ask, what is the purpose of money for you? And get into those questions, but I want to stay here for a moment. There's also the concept of, I want to talk about this exchange of money. If we think of a dollar bill, if you take a dollar bill, you can do a number of things with it. Let's say you take it to Wendy's for their dollar menu, and you get the thing I like to get is Frosty. I do like Frosties. I often will get a chicken fried tender. Let's go with Frosty. I like Frosties. You get a Frosty. That dollar then, you receive the Frosty, the dollar goes to Wendy's. Let's say it goes to the owner of Wendy's, or let's just say it goes to the employee, because the employee gets paid, right? So the employee takes that dollar and may do something else with it. For example, they may go and using it as part of their rent payment. They pay rent. Well, then the person who is the landlord, whoever that receives that money, may go use it somewhere else. They may go take their kids and go to Wendy's, buy a Frosty. Now, that $1 was only supposed to buy $1, right, of value. But when it's exchanged, it creates a lot more. And what's interesting is I want you to consider what is behind that dollar. What is behind that value that got exchanged? Really, it's labor. Labor, again, this is, I'm so self-conscious, and I apologize, but I'm afraid I'm going to quote you wrong. Chris Miles has thought labor, if I quote you wrong, you just tell me, is the only true currency. So it was something
from Brigham Young. So.
Is it? Okay, from Brigham Young. Labor is the only true currency. Why? Well, think about that exchange example that we just talked about. If you take that dollar, someone provided that frosty. There was a lot of labor that went into it. The people who brought the substance, the people who milked the cows in the first place, who harvested the cocoa. I mean, if you go into it, there was a lot that went in to producing that frosty. That labor produced it. If there was no labor, you wouldn't get a frosty. Wouldn't matter how many dollars you spent, you wouldn't get a frosty. That's sad. Sorry, I know you made it a frosty. That means it was like, oh. See, I care about ice cream. I really just do. Then if that dollar goes to someone who then goes to pay rent, that's someone provided value. Now you say, well, what's the labor there? They're just sitting on it. Well, I'm not saying that providing labor means trading dollars for hours. That's not what I mean. There was labor that went into building that house in the first place, and if someone purchased it, they used that money to pay for that labor, whether it was immediately when it was newly constructed or somewhere along the line, but that money was exchanged for the labor that was provided. And now that person owns it, and now that value comes back to them. So this exchange that creates wealth is all powered by labor. If we didn't have any medium of exchange in society, then we would have to be completely self-sufficient, in the sense of we could not have any interdependence. And that's not a very fun life. I don't know what your experience is, but to me, if I had to grow all of my own food and live everything off of myself and not have any value trade with anyone, I wouldn't get a lot out of life. I mean, services, materials, like I'd be stuck. So what role does money play in society? Provides that medium of exchange. To me, that's a very valuable role that money plays. So what does this all have to do with budgeting? Well, there's people that talk about budgeting, and you may have heard budgeting is 80% mindset and 20% technical knowledge or skill. Whatever that means, I kind of think that's a little bit skewed, to be honest. If anything, I think it's probably more like 95% mindset and 85% skill. It has much more to do with how we view and think about money and fulfill the role of a steward than it has to do with technical skill. And here's the difference. The skill is simply training. Anyone can be trained. The mindset, that's education. That's the difference. And that's one thing that it's not specifically part of this, but it is a passion of mine, is what is the purpose of education? It's different than just training. I have a number of thoughts that I've organized, because there's no way I can fit all this in a half hour, so I just gotta kind of sense what would feel like the best thing to share. Well, so this lecture is called Budgeting, from Expletive to Friend. And so I'll dive into that a little bit. There are, I guess I would say budgeting gets a bad rap in my mind, in my view, but people, they hear the word budget, and honestly, I think there's people who'd rather be cursed out and sworn up and down to and insulted than told you need to go work on your budget. They get more worked up over their budget. It's some of the worst expletives to them. Why? Does it need to be that way? I do not believe so. In my mind, there's 4 levels of budgeting that I've seen with different people I've worked with. First, there is the people who don't do anything. Literally nothing. They earn and they spend and they have no idea. They hope that they have enough money, more money than month, come the end of the month. And they don't even know if they do or not lots of time. I actually, the very first person I ever helped one-on-one, okay, actually I guess it's the second, I just thought of someone else before that, but that I helped one-on-one was a family member with budgeting. And it was a funny story when I first arrived. The very first time I arrived at her house and said I was excited because I was going to get to help her with budgeting, and because I love it. And she looked at me and said, "Matt, aren't you scared to go look at those big scary numbers? They're so scary." And I would chuckle a little bit, and I realized she was absolutely serious. There was nothing of joke. She was just like, "They're so scary. I don't want to go look at those numbers. They're scary." And I probably wasn't the most tactful at the moment, just because I hadn't anticipated that at the time. But I told her, you know what? I bet you, within a while, you are going to be excited to go look at those numbers. And she scoffed. She was like, right, okay, whatever. Let's do it, because I know I have to. I know I need to, but I hate this. A couple months later, after I'd been working with her, I came one day and she walked out, she said, "Oh, Matt, you're here, I'm so glad. I can't tell you how much I wake up in the morning and I can't wait to go look at my numbers. I just can't wait to get on the computer. It's like the first thing I want to do when I wake up is go look at my numbers." And I cracked up. She said, "Who would have thought?" And like, well, I did. It's great. It's a great feeling. I was so glad she got there, because she was in that state of there was nothing. There was no budgeting. It was, I call it level 1 budgeting. It's almost not even, it's almost level 0. It doesn't exist. Level 2 budgeting, they call it tracking. Tracking is where you see where you spent your money. So, you know, your money comes in. When you spend it, you say, okay, this came from food, and this was gas money that I bought and paid for, and this was that, or whatever, the insurance or whatever expenses you have. And then at the end of the month, you're still, you may have spent, if you spent less than you earned, you're lucky, and if you spent more than you earned, you're unlucky, and that's all there is to it. There's no consciousness or deliberation to it. It's just, I tracked it, and hey, look, there it went. Why? I don't know, but there it went. Third level of budgeting, and this is where I feel that budgeting gets a bad rap. Third is track and restrict. So people track their money, and so they know where it's going, and then they say, okay, I am going to stick into $400 this month for food, and $300 this month for gas, and whatever the different categories are. And they can't spend more than that. It's not allowed. And people hate that. Well, yeah. Of course, that makes, who would like that feeling of, I always have to stay in this much in this category and I can never go above it. It's very much a mindset of, I can't afford it, I can't afford it, I can't afford it. And no, it just wears on me. And then people go to look at it like, oh, I gotta go make sure I'm staying in my budget. I gotta figure out how to live on less. I gotta do these kinds of things. It's not a fun experience for people. And then at the end of the month, still, there's not really a deliberate, okay, I saved this much, I, put this much here. They're not really in charge of their funds. Their funds are in charge of them. And yeah, they're living according to the principle of not running faster than they have strength. They're staying within their means, but it's not a good experience. And that's why I think people just hate budgeting. Who would like that? This is what I call level 4 budgeting. Here's the difference. Well, for level 4 budgeting, I call directing your money, being conscious about choosing, being in control of your money rather than your money being in control of you. And this is what the difference between that is. I can't afford it versus how can I afford it? It's a very different feeling. Very different feeling.
Because when you direct your finances, there's things you can do. You can say, okay, I have earned this. This is how much money, how much value I provided and money I received in return. So here's the funds, the resources that I have. I am going to plan to use $400 for food this month and $300 for gas this month. But then, partway through the month, something happens and things change. You can say, okay, I don't need as much gas. I don't need to go and take as many trips to my mom's an hour away as I thought, or something like that. And food is a little more stressful. I can take some, move it here to there. You can say, okay, here's what I want to do. Something came up. I would like to make a purchase. This is something I want. I don't have it in my budget. I didn't plan for it. How can I make it work? I can take a little here. I can do something here. I'm in charge. I'm directing my finances. That's the difference. That's what I call level 4 budgeting. So, make sure I covered what I wanted to there. Oh, I wanted to say one more thing on that. It's a matter of primacy. Is the word that I think is probably the best word. It's not that you don't track your funds. You do, and you value tracking your funds. But the primacy is on directing them, meaning that's ranked first. Tracking is secondary. It's part of it. That makes sense. Now there's a lot of financial principles. There's a lot of, you could talk for ages on finance. There's many books and many that I highly recommend. So what are some principles that would be appropriate to share right now? Help, if you're in that position where budgeting just feels like an expletive right now, you hate it, how can you get to that level for kind of budgeting where it can be a source of peace for you, a source of something you are glad to do, something that you feel like, I'm in control of, I'm on top of this, this is serving me, I'm not serving it? Well, the first thing that comes to mind is, what tools are you using? Are you using a tool that allows you to direct your funds? Personally, the only two I found that really are in harmony with that principle is YNAB. You need a budget. It's called YNAB. And envelopes. It's M like Matt or money, envelopes.com. So you can search on Google. You can find those. I think they both have free versions. I'm not sure about YNAB. I know envelopes does. I talked to some people who prefer one, some another. I prefer envelopes, but whichever. Both will allow you to do that. Last I checked, and I know you're a fan of Mint, Chris. I don't mean to down you, but last I checked, Mint doesn't let you do that. Yeah. Mint is a track, and it's a level 3 budgeting tool, from my perspective. Maybe they changed. Maybe there's ways to do that, but so that's my first thought: is go find a tool that works for you. Find one that you can actually use to direct your funds easily. What I like about these tools, again, I mostly could talk about envelopes because that's the one I use, is that it connects with your bank accounts, and whenever you spend money, whenever you use your money to purchase something, it comes in, and it's just like the envelope system that you may have heard Dave Ramsey talk about. You put all your money, when your money comes in, you put all your money in envelopes for each category, and then when you spend money, you take it out of that envelope. When that envelope's gone, well, it's gone, and then again, direct to your money. You can move money from another envelope if you wish, but that's your resources. So it's the same thing, but it automates it for you. So you have your envelopes, and you fund your money into them. When you receive a paycheck, you put your money in there, and then when you can just drag and drop it. And if it, you made an expense, I bought food. Okay, I went to the grocery store, bought $50. I drag it in, drop it. It deducts that envelope by that $50, and it handles credit cards. It handles everything that you need to be able to manage your finances, and it does it for you. I know there's a free version of envelopes that has a limited feature set, but it can still get you by if that's what you need to start with. So the first thing I would recommend is find a tool that works for you. Excuse me. The second thing is, I like steps. I like baby steps. Dave Ramsey has his baby steps that he recommends. I think they have some value to them. I kind of have modified them for things that I feel like works a little better. And there's 4 steps that I feel work
At least they worked for me, and they work efficiently. They work for others. First is get up to date on where you're at. If you have bills that you have outstanding, that you have minimum payments on, whether it's on a credit card or you have your water bill or your light bill or things like that, get up to date. Make sure that you can pay your current lifestyle, and if you can't, it may be appropriate to shrink down, especially as you're getting started. Or it may be time to figure out how you can provide more value so that you can continue living that lifestyle. I'll share a report about that in a minute. Step 2 is buffer. Create a buffer. People call it emergency fund. You can call it whatever you want. I like to call it a buffer. Buffer is a principle. Having a buffer is a principle of preparation. And preparation is a principle of stewardship. And that's what we're here to do. We're stewards. I very much believe in the principle and law of stewardship. And if I have time, I will share a little more of my thoughts on that, because I feel like it's very important. How much people say, well, how much do I want to have a buffer? I know Dave Ramsey says $1,000, get $1,000. For me, I find that if I take a yearly income, divide it by 40, then have that, whatever that number is, round it up to the nearest 1,000 or 500, somewhere in there. That is going to provide a good buffer for you to get started. Because someone who makes $20,000 a month versus someone who makes $30,000 a year, they may need different buffers, right? What this is going to do for you is it will provide flexibility. This preparation provides flexibility. Also, it provides short-term security, some peace of mind. But by having that buffer, it also allows you, as you're learning to budget and getting started, it creates a space for you to have forgotten some expenses that you maybe didn't remember. Say you pay your auto insurance every 6 months or every year or something like that, and you didn't remember that you needed to be saving up for that. Well, guess what? You have a buffer in place. Oh, I forgot about it. Okay, I can pay that, and my budget isn't thrown out the window, and I can rebuild that. When my wife and I were first married, and we were looking at our budget and we needed to buy auto insurance, we were actually covered on my parents for a little while, but then when we graduated from college, we got the boot. And we were like, okay, go figure your life out a little bit. And we had to buy auto insurance, and it was cheaper if we paid a year up front. So we were like, well, we don't have that saved, but we did have a buffer. So we paid for the year up front, and then we started putting into our envelope, our category, double what it would cost each month to pay that. By doing that, at 6 months, we were back to zero on that, and then by the next 6 months, we were able to pay the next year's. Having that buffer made all that difference. It enabled us to do that. Third step is debt snowball. Start a debt snowball. If you have debts, credit card debts, whatever it may be, start a debt snowball. You've probably heard of this concept before, where you start paying one debt, and as soon as you get it paid off, you then pay whatever you were paying to that and apply it to the next debt. So it just snowballs and pays them off real quickly. Now, often people are told usually one of two ways to pay off debts in a debt snowball. It's either the highest interest rate first, so you pay the least amount of money total, or it's pay the lowest one first so you can have some early wins and be feeling good and keep the ball going. Both have their value. What I learned from Chris Miles, and it resonated right away with me, is a better way, a third way. You actually don't look at the interest rate or how long it'll take you to pay it off. What you look at is what will give you the biggest bang for your buck, cash flow wise. And the way to do that is you take the principal, the amount of the principal, how much you have left to pay, and you divide that. Oh man, my mind just went blank. What do you divide that by?
Minimum monthly payment.
Minimum monthly payment, thank you. You divide that by the minimum monthly payment. And that gives you a ratio, a score, if you will. Whichever ones have the lowest score, you pay that one first. Why? Well, let's do a little thought experiment. This too came from Chris. I told you I'd be quoting you a lot. And his site, in fairness, his site is moneyripples.com. I highly recommend you look into what this man teaches. A lot of this content. I've learned from him, and it's just great stuff. He has so much to share. I wanted to do a thought experiment with you about why would you pay them off in that order. If you prefer to close your eyes, close your eyes. If you don't like to close your eyes, it doesn't matter. But think in your mind for a minute, how much do you currently bring in per month? What's that number? Maybe 3,000, it may be 1,000, it may be 20,000, whatever it is. Now take that number, let's do some math, divide it by 2. You know what that number is. Something in your life just happened, and now that is your current monthly income. How does that feel? What does that generate? What does that bring up in you? Now, when I first was given this experiment, when I was listening to Chris and that happened, my gut started churning. I didn't feel so good. I was not excited about that. I was like, okay, I gotta do something else to make this work. And my mind immediately started going to what could I do? Get another job, something to replace that. It was not an exciting experience. So go back. Don't worry, that's not where you're at. You do make what you make. But now let's do another experiment. Whatever that number was, half of your income, add that to your current income again. So if you make $3,000, let's pretend now you make $4,500 a month. How does that feel? What difference does that make? I know for me, it felt like, oh boy, there's so much I can do now. I can, meet these goals, and I can do this, I can do that. I was excited about that. Here's the interesting thing. Did I ever say about how much money you had in your account? You could have $0 in your account, you could have $1 million in your account. That didn't matter. What mattered, what impacted how you felt, was the cash flow that would change, right? The cash flow that you're producing. So if that's really what is going to affect you, then why not get the biggest cash flow bang for your buck when you're paying off your debts? You don't have to do it that way. You can do it, based on interest rate or whatever, but it's just a mindset of, what are your goals? What are you trying to achieve? If you can create that cash flow, how much more can that free up? And then if you have that cash flow and you can apply that to your next debt to pay it off faster, it's, the debt snowball. But create that cash flow, it's valuable. I'm starting to run out of time here. So let me share if I can just a couple things I want to share. There's a lot of things I want to share, but I've got to pick and choose. Okay, I'm going to go with 2 things. I'll try to be quick about them both. I want to talk a little bit about accumulation mindset versus cash flow mindset. A little bit about what we were just talking about. I believe that we have an epidemic in this country of accumulation mindset. I do not believe it serves us. Frankly, it goes against principle. It goes against the principle of stewardship. And I don't have enough time to get into that right now, but a steward, if you can think of a steward does not own what they have. They are a caretaker, but they're more than just a caretaker, right? A steward has a responsibility to provide for himself and his family, to provide value for others in a way that is able to provide a return for the master. Right? A steward has those responsibilities. We are stewards. Our resources are meant to be used, not hoarded, not squandered, used. There's a difference. So I want to talk a little bit about this accumulation mindset in America. Our traditional systems have taught us to hoard, quite frankly. That's what IRAs and 401ks are all about. They're about hoarding. They're about save us as much money as you can, get it in there, never touch it, get as big of a mountain, hoard as big of a mountain as you can, and hope that you die soon enough so it doesn't run out. It's not a very fun feeling. I think budgeting gets a bad rap. And there are a lot of people that promote this. Now, I believe Dave Ramsey has served a lot of people. I like him. I don't agree with him on everything, and this is one of those. So it's recommended from the financial world right now that you are to withdraw, in retirement, you want to withdraw about 3 to 4% of whatever that massive hoard that you created, or maybe not so massive as it turns out, to survive and to make sure that you have enough to live. Well, so let's do that. If you wanted to have the lifestyle of living for $40,000 a month, which is about a year, which is about the average income in the U.S., you need $1 million if you're withdrawing at 4%, right? Well, Dave Ramsey has said that $100 a month at 12% over 40 years, you'll get about there. It's a little wrong on his numbers, but he was close. But here's the thing. I wrote this quote down from you, Chris, because I didn't want to quote it wrong. The market does not get 12% returns consistently. Although the S&P 500 index averages more than 10% per year, actual yields are less than 8% per year, and those numbers don't include fees or inflation. So let's do a little math fun. I like numbers. This is my fun stuff. At 8% per year, you're putting in $100 a month. So after back that up. 8% per year, you want to get to $1 million. Okay? Now, I don't know about you, you can say 30 years, 40 years. Personally, I like the idea of 30 years. So let's say 30 years. Well, to get there, you have to put in $706 a month. Over 30 years, at 8% yield to get to $1 million. Now, it might be manageable for some folks, but still quite a bit, right? However, that doesn't take account the effects of inflation. By the way, inflation doesn't mean money prices go up. Inflation is an increase in the money supply. That's happening all the time. When people say inflation, what they mean is the effects of inflation, but no one wants to go around saying the effects of inflation all the time, so they just say inflation. So according to shadowstats.com, the effects of inflation over the past, number of years is about 5%. So let's use that. In order to produce your $40,000 a year lifestyle, to save, what would you have to save over 30 years to get there? Per month, you would have to put away $3,049 a month so that you could live the lifestyle of $40,000 a year. That's in 30 years. Okay, so let's say 40 years then, right? Because that's not realistic. 40 years, you have to put away $2,172 a month after inflation. That still doesn't count, though, fees, if you're talking stock market. And you know what? It also doesn't consider taxes. 401k is a tax-deferred account, right? So you pay taxes when you pull it out. Well, let me ask you this. Taxes going up or down? What do you think? I don't think they're going down. As much as I vote, I don't think they're going down. So what matters? Accumulation, cash flow. Cash flow is what you're looking for. The accumulation, it's not a game you can win. The reason is it goes against principle. You're not using your resources. You're hoarding them. Okay. I'm still going over, but I just got it. It's so good. It's such good stuff. Last thing I want to share, some comments about debt. When I got my first job, and the honeymoon period expired after about 6 months to a year of having a job, quite frankly. I was looking for something. I was looking for something different. But everything I looked at seemed like I had to have debt to get there. If I wanted to invest in real estate, I was going to have to get into debt. If I wanted to start a business, so go start an ice cream franchise, man, let me tell you, Ben & Jerry's ice cream franchise is about $600,000. Yes, I looked that up. Of course I did. I was going to have to go into debt. I couldn't figure out how can you have opportunity and not go into debt. Like, how does this work? How can you ever get ahead unless your dad was rich and left you a bunch of money? I couldn't figure it out. And I was always taught from my church leaders that debt is bad. Well, that's what I thought I was taught from my church leaders. Then I came across a book called The Prophetic Model of Prosperity. I'm LDS, Mormon, for those who don't know, and you're welcome. I'm not interested in having any religious considerations here. But these leaders taught principles of finance because it's part of our spiritual lives as well. We're stewards, right? Well, here's a few quotes that surprised me. This is by a man named Marvin J. Ashton. Debt in itself is neither good nor bad. It is a financial tool with the potential of being either. When I read that the first time, I was beside myself. I was standing up, I was running my hands through my hair, I couldn't believe it, I was walking around almost aimlessly. I wept. I had no idea that it was not a sin to be in debt. They've counseled us on how to use that debt. And I believe this wise counsel, whether you're share my religious views or not. We have been counseled to get out of debt. This directive has been confusing to many of us over the years. How is it possible to be out of debt and to buy a home, finance education, or start a business? When we were advised to get out of debt and avoid it as we would the plague, I believe we were being taught a vital principle of temporal harmony. Debt is always a burden, but some debt is necessary. Sound business debt, home mortgages, and other forms of secured debt are unavoidable for most of us. That was J. Richard Clark. And then one other that is from a man named N. Eldon Tanner. An important part of this training should be to explain debt. For most of us, there are two kinds of financial debt: consumer debt and investment or business debt. Consumer debt refers to buying on credit those things we use or consume in daily living. Consumer debt is secured by mortgaging our future earnings. This can be very dangerous. Investment debt should be fully secured so as not to encumber a family's security. So, I've gone over. I'd like to share with you my why. Talk about weekly whys. WHYS, because I believe that when we share our why, it's inspiring to others that it resonates with. Why do I care enough to get up here and stand here and talk about this? Well, I believe very much that our stewardship of temporal things is a type and a shadow of things to come. That the verses in the parable in the Bible, of the parable of the talents, that those who were wise with their stewardship, we were made rulers of many things. I believe that very literally. And I want that. I believe it's simply a type. Not merely a type, but it is a type and a shadow of things to come. And what is the purpose of money in my life? I'd like to answer that question, at least for me. I don't know what it'll be for you. For me, the purpose of money in my life is to enable me to live the life mission, to inspire me to live the life mission that God would have me live in a way that provides the most value to as many other people as possible along the way. The purpose of money is to inspire me. Marvin J. Ashton said, money in the hands of Latter-day Saints, which is members of our church, is, I'm paraphrasing, but I know the last part, ought to be used to achieve eternal happiness. That's the part I'm sure of in that quote. To achieve eternal happiness. Money, how? Well, for me, it's to inspire me to live that life mission. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it. And I'm going to turn it back over to Ryan. He's going to talk about some resources. I didn't even get to it. One of those is the Mentoring Network. Chris Miles has content on that Mentoring Network. It's a fantastic resource. So hear what this man has to say. It can sincerely bless your life. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Very good. Very good. As he said, Questions are the answers. The quality of our life is determined by the quality of our questions. So I have a very important question for everyone. What is your relationship with money? Now, many people have many different answers. In your gut, what response do you have when you think of money? Is it a happy experience? Do you envision a blessing and growth and prosperity and connection? And if that's not the case, I know the audience may have here, that is their experience. But for many people, that's kind of a dirty word. Budgeting might be a dirty word. And the question is, do you want to continue having that be your reaction to money? Do you want that to forever flavor how you see money? If you're content to having money being something that churns knots in your stomach, or you clench your fist out, or something really negative, if you're content to have that be your reality forever, then what we're going to share with you might not be that useful. But if you can envision, what would it take to change how I perceive it? And all of a sudden, well, no, it's a process for sure, to be sure. And over the course of time, I can see money as a very positive way to create value for myself and for others. It becomes a joyous experience. What about everything in your life that you say, I hate this, I hate this, I hate this, I'm no good at this, this is a scary experience? What if you could tackle those one by one and shift how you see them and step into confidence, to step into glory? So as Matt said, we are stewards, we have resources, and we see them clearly. We understand they are to be used rather than squandered, and rather than hoarded, to be used with confidence, with enthusiasm. And one of the most powerful resources that we have is right here between our own two ears, our mind. Our mind. How do we perceive everything in our lives? And I really like this gesture, this shift, because think about it. You have all of us have programmed ourselves. This is how we feel about money. This is how I feel about food. This is our relationship with our spouse. This is how we think about exercise, and on the list goes. And to become conscious is to look at those and say, do I want to continue feeling that way about this in this area of my life, or would I benefit from a change, from an upgrade? And so this is what we're talking about, the Stromberg Mentoring Network. If you were to plug it in there, and you were to go there with the intention, you're saying, my relationship with money is really sour, and I don't like it. And is there anyone who can help me shift? Right? There's many people there. Chris Miles being one of them. Chris Crone, many other people who can help shift how you see that money, and suddenly you see opportunity where before you saw burden, and suddenly your options expand. So another important question that I want to ask everyone: if you were to use just 3 words to describe your life, just 3 words, and these are the primary ways that you experience life, would these words fit? Magnificent, majestic, marvelous. Can you readily say, yes, my life is majestic, magnificent, marvelous? And we are perhaps a strange group of folks that believe if that's not your reaction, if that's not true for you now, you can make it true. You can reprogram what's in here and in here, and pretty soon, life becomes fun, and it's an adventure, and it's exciting, and it's exploratory, and all of the things that comprise our life come together in a beautiful harmony so that we can have greatness and passion and excitement. We're dedicated firmly to the belief that this is our birthright as human beings. This is why we were created, was to live in abundance and joy. So, friends, to be a part of the Stromberg Mentoring Network, this is what it looked like. So presently, it's a website with content from many, many different people who have developed themselves in various fields. And if you were to plug yourself in there, now you can plug in for free. You get a username and password. There will be 9 courses, and you can see which ones you feel like would most apply to you at the moment. And you review these courses, and you learn from them. Your vision expands, your vision grows. And of course, not everything shared in there will be.
You don't even have to have a username and password.
No username and password.
You just go to the site.
Okay. Of course, not everything every mentor has to say will be of value to you. That's okay. You're looking to program your life the way you want it, right? And I love this is a mantra that I believe and hold close to my heart. I am the only one authorized to live my life. So I'm going into this experience wondering, how can I make my life magnificent? You know, I'm not trying to prove or disprove what someone else has said. I want to say, how can I feel joy? What can I do and think and feel so that when I wake up in the morning, we're going to throw those covers off and say, I'm doing this, right? Let's bring on the world. Let's go out and conquer and achieve, because I am magnificent. That's what we're doing. So, yes, so you can do it for free. If you want all the content that's available, all the audio and the video, the reading of all these different materials, you pay $99 a month. $99 a month will give you access to all of these people. And so in order to envision yourself in this position, we recommend that you spend consistent time investing in yourself. I asked the question, do you believe in yourself? Do you love yourself enough to invest in yourself? And so we recommend people put consistent time into it. Half an hour a day, maybe 15 minutes, maybe an hour every day, or 6 times a week, whatever it is. Consistently ask yourself, how can I make my life better? How can I step up to a new level? How can I learn to love and cherish myself even more than I already do? How can I cherish the moment more? And this is what it's about. Of course, there are other opportunities within it. There are live events that you can attend as being a part of this. There's a great community of people that we build each other up and support each other and help each other to achieve the next level, to achieve a higher life. And we believe in our greatness. We believe that truly it's optional. We can make our lives magnificent and marvelous and majestic if we so choose. So I implore everyone that's hearing my voice, believe in yourself. Choose to invest in yourself regularly. If you're here listening today, then that's probably an indicator that what we have is of value to you. So we highly recommend, look it up. Look up win.stromberg.com. win.stromberg.com, and then click on the mentoring vault. Mentoring vault, and you'll see what this is. And I implore you, please do that as soon as this lecture is over and you've eaten your ice cream. Get on your computer and look at this. And if you can't do it right after, I implore you, schedule a time. Believe in yourself enough to invest in yourself. And if the Stromberg Mentoring Network isn't right for you, then do something to believe in yourself, to invest in yourself, because you are worth it. You deserve it, and we can have it. So that's our message of today, Stromberg Mentoring Network. Now Matt's going to bring up the ice cream that he chose for tonight. And keep in mind, he is such a connoisseur of ice cream. This is one of many of his flavors. So we do what we call an unboxing. You've heard of an unveiling before, right?
Oh, sorry, we're getting off the screen.
Oh, hi.
So this flavor, I did kind of transition, but right now I've been wanting this one more than any other. It's Peanut Butter World. You can only get it at Target. They have like an exclusive contract for it. It's milk chocolate ice cream with a peanut butter ribbon and a chocolate cookie swirl. It's divine. Very good. Next week will be See, look at this.
Sorry, I just have to show you because look how good this is. So if you come to our house, I know some of you can't, but if you come to our house, this is like for you.
Next week, Danny Dixon, she's a 16-year-old girl, will be presenting for our Weekly Wise. She's a passionate girl. She's going to be a lot of fun, and her Weekly Wise, her topic is how to live 100% drama-free from a 16-year-old, and it's especially geared for youth. So come, bring your youth, come with your families, and I think you'll be in for a treat and a treat. So with that, thanks all. Have a good night.